Okay, it's time to tear off the decking on this old wooden deck. You can see that the deck is pretty well dried out, cracked. A lot of the fasteners and screws have been replaced because the old ones were rusted through. The deck is splintering, rotting. It just is ready to be replaced. So in this video, I'm going to show you the process I use to replace the decking on a deck. You can see there's some privacy fence panels on the sides. Those will also get replaced. I'm going to reuse the railing, so I'll leave that up. I'm going to start by removing the first row about in the middle of the deck. Start taking some of the screws out. A lot of them won't come out because they're stripped, rusted, broke. Just impossible to get out, but I'll remove as many as I can just to make it easier and take the first board off. Then I'm going to come back in with the deck wrecker or the pallet buster, which I purchased online. It's real nice. It has a 5-foot pole for leverage, and you just set it on the joist, and then you can pry out, and it really does a number on the boards. You can see it's just cracked this dried out old board to pieces. Get that out of the way, and then we can move down. And every joist just pulls the screws, nails, fasteners out of the joist. Some of the fasteners have been replaced and are in there really good. When that happens, I'll just move to another joist and pry out the old fasteners, making it easier and quicker for me to remove this decking. And once I get one complete row all the way across the deck, then I can start working back and forth in each direction. I got to slide this piece of deck out from underneath the rail. You can see it's been notched out. This deck is really in bad shape. It's just splintering apart because it's all dry rotted and in bad condition. It's time to replace it. So now I have a whole complete row, so I can start removing complete rows, and I'll skip a couple joists if they're loose. If the decking boards are loose from the joists, skip a few rows on there and just start prying up the deck boards one by one with my deck wrecker. I'm going to start a little pile over in the corner of the smaller boards, and I'll run those over to my dumpster, which is over in the front of the house. Now, some of the longer boards I'm going to keep on top of the deck simply to stand on while I remove some of the other boards. But the smaller boards, I can get rid of some of those because those are not as safe to walk on as, say, the longer ones are. You don't want to step on the end of a board and fall through the deck. Although this deck is not high off the ground, still not something that I would want to do. You'll see that there's two decks, actually, an upper and a lower. So I'm going to work on the lower one first and get all the decking off of the lower deck before I move up to the top deck. And the top deck surrounds a swimming pool. So I'll need to be careful not to get anything in the pool. And I'll lay down this piece here just to have something to stand on. And I'm going to make a run out to the dumpster, get rid of some of these pieces, so I can start working towards the house and have some room to work here. Some of these boards will come up with just one pull of the deck wrecker. The fasteners are rusted out so bad. It's not always going to be this easy, but it sure does help having this pallet buster or the deck wrecker, whichever you call it. And I'm going to continue to work row by row, pulling up the deck boards, and I'll lay those on the joists behind me as I move towards the house. Make sure that the nails are facing down. All the screws and fasteners are facing down so I don't step on any of those. And being careful where I step so that I don't step on the end of a board and fall through. Okay, as I get closer to the house, you may have noticed that there is a downspout running through the deck. So I'm going to have to use the reciprocating saw to cut a little section out of the deck. I'm going to cut a few inches over from the downspout on either side. I've got the decking loose. If I cut on each side, it'll weaken the board so that I can just break the board around the downspout, and it comes out easily like that. Now to get the top deck out, I have to start on the end and pry off the board. It looks like it's in a little bit better shape than some of the lower pieces were. There's some new fasteners that were added over the years to refasten these boards. But once I get the first row started, I can continue with my deck wrecker. You may notice that there is a post right where I'm working now. That's to hold up an awning. I'm going to cut around that and leave the decking underneath it for now. And I'll have to support that later on to remove the decking and replace the decking. I'll do that all at one time so that I don't have to leave the awning without much support. So I've got my decking cut around the support post, and then I can just continue pulling the decking up towards the swimming pool. This deck has been out in the sun a little bit more than the rest of it. The lower part's kind of shaded by the house and the awning, so it's a little more protected than this. So this one's a little more dry, and the fasteners are a little more rusted and missing. Makes it a little bit easier to pull up. Okay, so I've got all my decking torn up now. Got it laid out on top of the joist, and I'm just going to pull it through the end and take it out to the dumpster. Got both the bottom and all the top decking removed. So all that's left for me to do is remove the privacy panels on each side. It looks like they're screwed in, so I'm going to cut the screws that are holding the panel to the support pole with my reciprocating saw. Got a metal cutting blade, and I'm just going to run it down between the post and the panel. Again, this panel's been up here a while, so these fasteners are not in the greatest shape, and neither is the panel. It just flops apart fairly easy. And I'll just throw that down on top of the decking and run that out once I get this last panel taken apart. And that about wraps up day one of decking replacement, the demo day. Check back for part 2 when we start replacing the decking. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. I'm How To Bob. Thanks for watching.